David Lloyd George 1916-1922. Born in 1863 in Manchester, David Lloyd George rose from humble beginnings to become a formidable force in British politics. Initially a solicitor, he transitioned to politics and won a parliamentary seat in 1890 as the Liberal Member of Parliament for Carnarvon Boroughs. His rise within the Liberal Party was swift, and by 1905, he was appointed Chancellor of the Exchequer, a position that allowed him to showcase his financial acumen and progressive policy initiatives. Lloyd George's early career was marked by his advocacy for social reform and his instrumental role in shaping the People's Budget of 1910. This landmark budget introduced innovative policies such as the introduction of old age pensions and the funding of social welfare programs. However, his career would soon take an even more dramatic turn with the onset of World War I. As Lloyd George assumed the role of Prime Minister in 1916, he stepped into a world engulfed by the flames of World War I. The conflict, which had been raging since 1914, had reached a critical juncture, and the need for dynamic and decisive leadership was paramount. The Great War brought about unprecedented challenges, both on the battlefield and at home, reshaping the socio-political landscape of the United Kingdom. Lloyd George's leadership during this period was defined by his wartime responsibilities. As Minister of Munitions before becoming Prime Minister, he demonstrated his organizational prowess by overseeing the production of weapons and supplies crucial to the war effort. When he assumed the highest office in the land, he faced the monumental task of steering the nation through the war and negotiating peace settlements. The aftermath of World War I presented a complex scenario. The Paris Peace Conference in 1919, where Lloyd George played a key role, witnessed the redrawing of national boundaries, the creation of the League of Nations, and the crafting of the Treaty of Versailles. These decisions had profound implications for global politics and, subsequently, for Lloyd George's leadership at home. David Lloyd George's ascendancy to a position of great influence within the British government began with his appointment as Minister of Munitions in 1915. The appointment came at a critical juncture during World War I, a conflict that demanded unprecedented levels of production and supply to sustain the British military machine. As Minister of Munitions, Lloyd George exhibited remarkable organizational skills, streamlining the production process and ensuring a more efficient allocation of resources. His dynamic approach to the challenges of war production not only earned him widespread acclaim but also positioned him as a key figure capable of driving essential wartime efforts. The year 1916 witnessed a seismic shift in British politics as David Lloyd George played a central role in the ousting of Prime Minister H. Asquith. Frustrated by the perceived inefficiencies in Asquith's war leadership, a coalition of political figures, including Lloyd George, orchestrated a political maneuver that led to Asquith's resignation. In December 1916, Lloyd George assumed the mantle of Prime Minister, marking a turning point in his political career. Lloyd George's accession to the premiership was marked by a coalition government, reflecting the urgency and gravity of the war situation. The formation of this coalition, known as the Lloyd George Coalition Government, comprised members from various political parties, transcending traditional party lines for the sake of wartime unity. Lloyd George's leadership style emphasized pragmatism and decisiveness, essential qualities for navigating the challenges of a world at war. As Prime Minister during the latter stages of World War I, Lloyd George faced the formidable task of steering the nation to victory. His leadership during this period was characterized by a commitment to total war and an unwavering resolve to secure a favorable outcome for Britain and its allies. Under his guidance, the British military underwent significant reforms, and resources were strategically deployed to achieve military objectives. One of Lloyd George's most significant achievements was his role in negotiating the Armistice of 1918, which marked the end of hostilities on the Western Front. His diplomatic acumen and negotiating skills played a crucial role in shaping the terms of the armistice and setting the stage for the eventual peace negotiations. While the armistice brought relief from the immediate horrors of war, it also laid the groundwork for the complex post-war settlement that would unfold in the subsequent years. David Lloyd George's commitment to social reform was evident in his advocacy and implementation of the People's Budget of 1910. As Chancellor of the Exchequer, Lloyd George introduced a budget that aimed to address the stark social inequalities prevalent in early 20th century Britain. The People's Budget proposed a series of groundbreaking measures, including the introduction of progressive income taxation and the implementation of land and estate duties. By redistributing wealth through progressive taxation, Lloyd George sought to fund social welfare programs that would benefit the less affluent segments of society. The budget marked a departure from traditional fiscal policies, challenging the status quo and addressing pressing issues of poverty and inequality. The People's Budget laid the foundation for subsequent social reforms and set a precedent for future governments to address socioeconomic disparities through targeted fiscal policies. In the aftermath of World War I, with the nation grappling with the physical and social aftermath of the conflict, Lloyd George recognized the need for comprehensive healthcare reforms. In 1919, he spearheaded the establishment of the Ministry of Health, a groundbreaking initiative that aimed to consolidate and coordinate health-related services under a single government department. The creation of this ministry marked a pivotal moment in the development of the British welfare state. The Ministry of Health played a crucial role in coordinating public health initiatives, tackling issues such as housing, sanitation, and the provision of medical services. By centralizing responsibility for health-related matters, Lloyd George sought to create a more efficient and responsive system that could address the evolving healthcare needs of the population. The establishment of the Ministry of Health reflected Lloyd George's commitment to ensuring the well-being of the nation's citizens in the challenging post-war era. The end of World War I brought about a pressing need for housing solutions for returning veterans and their families, as well as the broader population. Lloyd George responded to this challenge with the Homes Fit for Heroes program, an ambitious initiative aimed at providing affordable and decent housing for the working class. Launched in the aftermath of the war, the program sought to address the acute shortage of housing by encouraging the construction of affordable homes with improved living conditions. Lloyd George envisioned a post-war society where the sacrifices made by the heroes on the battlefield would be reciprocated with the provision of suitable and dignified housing. While the program faced challenges and didn't fully achieve its lofty goals, it laid the groundwork for subsequent housing policies and left a lasting impact on the trajectory of social housing in Britain. The Paris Peace Conference of 1919 marked a critical juncture in global diplomacy, and David Lloyd George played a central role in shaping the post-World War I order. As the Prime Minister of Britain, Lloyd George, along with other Allied leaders, convened to negotiate the terms of peace with the defeated Central Powers. The decisions made during this conference would have far-reaching implications for the future geopolitical landscape. Lloyd George approached the conference with a focus on balancing justice and pragmatism. He advocated for a moderate approach, recognizing the need to punish Germany for its role in the war while avoiding excessively harsh terms that could potentially lead to future conflicts. Lloyd George was instrumental in securing the inclusion of the principle of national self-determination, acknowledging the aspirations of various nations for independence and autonomy. However, the outcomes of the Paris Peace Conference were complex and multifaceted. Disputes arose over issues such as reparations, territorial adjustments, and the League of Nations. The compromises and agreements reached during this conference would shape the Treaty of Versailles and the broader post-war settlement. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, was the formal document that concluded World War I and outlined the terms of peace. As one of the principal architects of the treaty, Lloyd George faced a delicate balancing act between satisfying the demands of the British public for justice and addressing the need for stability in Europe. While the treaty imposed significant territorial and military restrictions on Germany, including the demilitarization of the Rhineland and the establishment of the League of Nations, it fell short of some of the more punitive measures initially proposed. Lloyd George, aware of the delicate balance needed to prevent another devastating conflict, aimed for a treaty that could bring about lasting peace without unduly crippling Germany. However, the Treaty of Versailles would later prove controversial, with critics arguing that its terms contributed to the economic hardships and political instability that fueled the rise of extremism in Germany, ultimately leading to World War II. The debate over the treaty's fairness and effectiveness would persist for years, shaping historical perspectives on the aftermath of World War I. Lloyd George's commitment to international cooperation and collective security was evident in his active involvement in the League of Nations. The League, established as part of the Treaty of Versailles, aimed to prevent future conflicts through diplomacy, arbitration, and collective security measures. Lloyd George viewed the League as a crucial instrument for maintaining peace and stability in the aftermath of the Great War. Despite his initial enthusiasm for the League of Nations, Lloyd George faced challenges in gaining support for its proposals, both domestically and internationally. The United States, a key player in the League's envisioned structure, ultimately chose not to join, weakening its effectiveness. Nevertheless, Lloyd George continued to champion the League's principles and ideals, emphasizing the importance of diplomatic solutions and international cooperation in resolving conflicts. Lloyd George's involvement in the League of Nations reflected his vision for a world order based on collaboration and the prevention of future wars. However, the League's limitations and eventual failure to prevent the outbreak of World War II underscored the complexities of international diplomacy during this transformative period. After the conclusion of World War I, Britain faced significant economic challenges as it transitioned from a wartime economy to peacetime conditions. The demobilization of the military, coupled with the disruption of international trade and the cost of war reparations, led to a post-war recession. David Lloyd George, as the Prime Minister during this critical period, had to grapple with the economic fallout and devise strategies to stabilize the British economy. The economic challenges included high levels of unemployment, inflation, and a general slowdown in industrial production. Lloyd George's government implemented various measures to address these issues, including attempts to stimulate economic growth through public works projects and infrastructure development. However, the effectiveness of these measures was limited, and the economic hardships of the post-war period contributed to discontent among the public. One of the most significant foreign policy challenges during Lloyd George's premiership was the Çanak Crisis of 1922. The crisis unfolded in the Turkish Straits region, where British troops were stationed in Çanak, now Çanakkale, as part of a broader effort to secure strategic interests in the aftermath of World War I. Tensions arose when Turkish nationalist forces, led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, contested foreign military presence on Turkish soil. The Çanak crisis became a diplomatic and military standoff, with the potential for escalating into a broader conflict. Lloyd George faced criticism for his handling of the situation, as there were concerns about the adequacy of military preparedness and questions about the wisdom of maintaining a military presence in the region. The crisis strained relationships with other Allied powers and added to the challenges facing Lloyd George's government. Lloyd George encountered criticism from various quarters, both from political opponents and within his own Liberal Party. Despite his earlier successes and popularity, his leadership faced increasing challenges and discontent. Internally, the Liberal Party became divided over issues such as post-war reconstruction, economic policies, and Britain's role in international affairs. The more radical elements within the party disagreed with Lloyd George's moderate approach and his cooperative stance with conservative politicians in the coalition government. This internal discord weakened the cohesion of the Liberal Party and contributed to its decline. Furthermore, Lloyd George faced criticisms from political opponents, particularly within the Conservative Party. Some conservatives were uneasy about the collaboration with Liberals in the coalition government and questioned Lloyd George's handling of key issues, including foreign policy matters like the Treaty of Versailles and the Çanak Crisis. The cumulative effect of economic challenges, foreign policy controversies, and internal party strife ultimately eroded support for Lloyd George's leadership. These criticisms played a pivotal role in the decline of his political influence and marked the end of his premiership. Facing economic challenges in the aftermath of World War I, David Lloyd George's government implemented austerity measures, prominently known as the Geddes Acts. Named after Sir Eric Geddes, who chaired the committee responsible for recommending spending cuts, these measures were aimed at reducing government expenditure and restoring fiscal stability. The Geddes Acts involved significant cuts to public spending, affecting various sectors, including defense, education, and social services. While the intent was to address the post-war economic challenges, the severity of the cuts sparked controversy and discontent. The reductions in military spending were particularly contentious, as they were seen by some as compromising national security. The impact of the Geddes Acts contributed to a strained political environment and eroded public support for the government. Critics argued that the cuts disproportionately affected the working class and exacerbated social inequalities. The economic hardships, combined with the perceived harshness of the austerity measures, fueled dissatisfaction and weakened Lloyd George's political standing. The honors scandal of 1922 was a significant blow to Lloyd George's credibility and contributed to the decline of his political career. The scandal revolved around allegations of the improper awarding of honors, including knighthoods and peerages, in exchange for political and financial support. These allegations implicated members of Lloyd George's government, tarnishing the reputation of his administration. The scandal unfolded amidst a backdrop of political turmoil and growing discontent within both the Liberal and Conservative parties. Lloyd George's leadership, already facing criticism over economic policies and foreign affairs, was further compromised by the perception of corruption and cronyism. The scandal damaged public trust and intensified calls for accountability within political circles. The culmination of economic challenges, political controversies, and internal dissent led to David Lloyd George's resignation as Prime Minister in 1922. The honors scandal, in particular, had become a focal point of criticism, undermining the moral authority of his government. Facing mounting pressure and a loss of confidence from within his own party and the broader political landscape, Lloyd George chose to step down. His resignation marked the end of a transformative era in British politics and concluded his tenure as a key figure in the post-World War I reconstruction. The decline and resignation of Lloyd George represented the complexities and challenges of leadership during a period of significant social, economic, and political change. His departure marked a turning point in British politics, paving the way for new leaders to navigate the evolving landscape of post-war Britain. David Lloyd George's contributions during this transformative period were profound and left an enduring impact on British politics and society. His commitment to social reform and the creation of the welfare state reflected a vision for a more equitable and just society. The People's Budget and the Ministry of Health initiatives, in particular, set the stage for future policies aimed at addressing social and healthcare challenges. In the realm of international affairs, Lloyd George's involvement in the Paris Peace Conference and the Treaty of Versailles, while controversial, demonstrated a commitment to shaping a new world order after the devastation of World War I. His advocacy for the League of Nations reflected a belief in international cooperation and diplomacy as essential tools for preventing future conflicts. However, the challenges he faced, including economic difficulties, controversies, and internal party strife, ultimately led to his decline and resignation. The Geddes Acts and the honors scandal highlighted the complexities of governance during a period of post-war reconstruction and economic strain. In conclusion, David Lloyd George's pivotal years from 1916 to 1922 encapsulated a period of profound change and challenges. His legacy is one of both accomplishments and controversies, and his contributions to social reform and international relations continue to shape historical narratives and discussions on the trajectory of Britain during this transformative era. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.